Good evening, Honeysuckle Farm followers. Welcome to tonight's edition of what we're getting done here on the homestead here at Honeysuckle Farm. Tonight I'm going to kind of take you for a bit of a look into what we are currently doing, project under construction, and some of the reason why and the problem it might solve. And we live out here in Middle Tennessee. We built our homestead, as you can see by the scene behind me. We're kind of up on a hill. The view of that hill behind me is a couple kilometers away, and then this way you can see it does the same. So our home, our gardens, everything sits rather high up. As a result of it sitting relatively high up, the straight line wind, and if you can't tell by the way the sun is setting right there, most of our wind here and most of our weather patterns come in from the west and southwest. So it's this constant direction that we're feeling all these winds come from. And of course, wind trying to get up and over the hill will double in speed to get around an object. So with that, we had done, behind me are some of Tina's homemade, she made them herself, raised beds that she made out of mostly lumber slats from sawmills, pieces that they were getting rid of. So she built her raised bed garden right here, and that is wonderful, and it's got plans to expand. And then down this way a little, we have our elevated garden, or our ground garden, and in that one, that's where we do most of our tomatoes, our squashes, our zucchinis, all of our pole beans, things like that. These last couple years, walking by our beehive. Hey guys, beehive, get it? Beehive, dad joke. That's just for you dads out there. And women, I'd like to clarify something, women and children, that dad jokes, when we tell them, we know we're not being funny. We tell them for our entertainment, to watch your responses to our dad jokes. So I'm going to throw them in whenever possible. So down here, we are now entering the spot of our garden where we've done the road crops and everything else. This being about 3,000 square feet. Well, this is good for some of the weather that we're in. We can get some stuff here, and we have a pretty good outdoor growing season. But we needed to do something to expand that season. So we started looking around at our options. And then this past year, we put up a hoop house. We put it up right about here. The winds that came up, Tina's description of it is best. I'm paraphrasing. But she said it's kind of like God just kind of crumpled up this thing and left it for us when he was done. It got destroyed by straight line winds that we had just coming up and over. So we decided, when I say destroyed, it was irreparable. There was nothing left really even to salvage, unless you wanted to make a greenhouse maybe for Barbie and Ken, a micro-sized greenhouse. Maybe that's what they grow micro greens in. Ha! Another dad joke. But we decided, okay, beyond the hoop house, what can we do? So we got the brilliant idea. Well, the hoop house just got destroyed because of the straight line winds, and the hoop house really isn't built for this kind of terrain or environment of the maybe high windy area. So we're gonna go with a greenhouse, a metal frame, rigid panel greenhouse. So we went a little farther up the hill here, closer to the house, and we put up the greenhouse. And we found pieces of it in the tree line in the top of the trees on the other side after one day of straight line winds. So we have since engineered that. If you've been out to our homestead, you guys have seen it. We brought it to the other side of the house to use the house blocking the wind. Then we put iron spikes in the ground, 8 of them, and then threw these big tow straps over the top of it and ratchet this thing down, and it's held down to the ground with those. Then it blew some of the panels out of them even. So we've had to re-engineer our panels and our vents during straight line winds, and it's throw extra straps on certain panels. All right, we've got to look for some other options. So if you live in a windy area, or maybe you're just looking for that durable, okay, what if a storm comes or one good straight line wind comes? Do you want to see all of your work on hoop houses or greenhouses go away? So drawing inspiration from the many different homesteading shows, YouTube channels, things like that we've watched, we decided that for us here on Honeysuckle Farm, the solution was going to be Subterranean. So whether that's a complete dugout greenhouse or what people refer to as a Chinese greenhouse. We're going with that, a subterranean greenhouse. Something where we've decided to capture, and we'll get into the design here, a little peek, it's being dug out behind me right now. We got some equipment, and if you don't have access to heavy equipment, if you don't own any heavy equipment, and you want to make some we were able to rent a mini excavator and move all this earth ourselves. We actually rented it for a different project, but you know, it's $500 if you rent it for a day, but $1,000 if you rent it for the week. Well, rent it for the week. Well, it's $1,000 for a week, but it's $1,800 if you get it for the month. So we were like, all right, this is a no-brainer. So we got it for the month, and then we're coming up with this huge list of all these different things we're going to use the excavator for. We're going to push trees. It has a thumb on it. We can chuck trees, move tree stumps, do everything. And of course, the weather doesn't cooperate. Other things in life don't cooperate. But we got a good portion of what we wanted to get done with the excavator. So for about $1,800, and this is, you know, a month ago. This is 2022 inflationary prices. We were able to go get a Kubota KX57 mini excavator with a 2-foot bucket, and that is the machine that has done all this work. So in case you're trying to figure out, well, okay, what size excavator is it? Really one of these mini ones, you know? And they brought it out, they delivered it for us. We even had a problem with it one day. One of the tracks slipped off. They sent their tech out, did that for us, and then gave us the time on the end of it because we lost a day's work. So with that, we were able to get this thing dug out. And so I'll show you our plan now as we're going through it. Where we decided to put it was kind of important to us. So this greenhouse, it's underground. It's going to be used for us 365 days a year, right? We want a 12-month growing season in that. So we want to do that, but we also want to be able to do all of our spring starts in it for the summer gardens. And we want to be able to do our fall starts in it when it's time to go and things like that. So where we were going to put it needed to be a workload minimization to where we're going to end up planting this stuff. So again, right here is our garden, our row garden. So it's literally right behind me. I can practically touch the ends of the rows. I turn around, and right in here is the entrance now coming down into our subterranean greenhouse. So walk this way. So here we are walking into the subterranean greenhouse dugout. And if you can see, we got a little bit of a burn thing there from some cardboard we were getting rid of. We have dug out basically 3 sides of the earth here. What we had was a natural slope. Bear with me, and you can kind of see it behind me. I'll give you some scale here in a second. All right, so what we had, I am walking all the way back up to the wall. As you can see, goes a couple feet above my head, and I'm a little over 6 feet. So what we basically did was take the terrain where it naturally sloped like this, and we just came and brought the excavator, and we chalked out our line ahead of time where we knew we wanted it to be. And the vision for us was important. Our end vision for getting this done, and you're just looking at phase 1 right now, is to be able to have the greenhouse roof go above us so that we're always getting top sunlight. With that, we'll have elevated panels that we can go for. That will allow some venting if we need to, and it'll be replaceable on a track, etc. And here behind us, this is what will be the back side of the greenhouse, running this long way. Across the top here, as we come across, it will have a series of panels about a foot tall that we can also vent or put exhaust fans in, etc. if we need to speed through the airflow, get it to exchange even more air to keep it nice and cool. Then right here on this side is the same thing. Right on the other side of this wall, up there is our garden. So what I'm standing in, we dug out a spot that is 20 feet by 40 feet. Does that mean we'll use all of it for the greenhouse? Probably. That's the nice thing about building your own. You figure out the space you have for it, and you can do it. And we were at the festival this past weekend, and one of the things that I heard somebody say, and they were talking about the ponds, if you're building a pond, build it bigger. If you can build one, nobody ever said, my pond is too big, I wish I built a smaller one. Nobody I know ever said, my greenhouse is too big, I wish I built a smaller one. Not in the homesteading business. So if you've got the land and the space that you want to dedicate to it, my suggestion is figure out the max you can go, do some common building dimensions to keep it the shape you want, rectangular, round, octagon, however you're going to design yours, and go. Now, our case, we're going again, a 20-foot by 40-foot rectangular design. That's measuring the base across the floor will be 20 by 40. The design for this one is that the poles will extend up from all of the corners. Corners will go up, whole framework. So basically building a frame inside of this 20 by 40 dugout rectangle now. And it's a dugout rectangle, but if you notice straight behind me, the ground goes just smooth. And we'll give you a nice shot from up here in a second. But basically the ground just goes smooth until the woods. And then it looks like it's got some big drop off. Well, guys, that wasn't there. All this was just a natural continued slope downhill. We took all the dirt from here, took it up with the excavator, turned the excavator around and dropped it here to make this big flat part. So now we can have our 20 by 40 greenhouse here. We can literally drive my pickup truck or a side-by-side, anything we want right here, load it all up with our spring plants from the greenhouse, hop on in and move it to right over here or pull them in a little hand cart wagon, and we are maybe 30 feet from the row garden. And to this side, we're maybe 40 feet to the raised bed garden. So if we want to do flower starts or any kind of starts that go in the raised beds, we kind of split the middle of the difference between our two main gardening areas and did that here. What that'll allow us to do also is now frame out this entire spot. Well, I've got dirt on the ground, obviously earth, and then we've got earth for 3 whole sides around this thing. If you don't know anything about geothermal insulation, that's going to really help. You know, if you come out here in the winter and this is sealed off up top, think about it in the basements of homes. It's the coolest spot in the summer and the warmest spot in the winter if there's no additional heat and cooling sources, because you're getting the radiant heating effect from the earth or the magnetism of the heat from the earth, depending on the season you're in. What that allows us to do then is kind of harness, I'm going to use a word that's a bit overused, but we're going to harness the geothermal effect. Fractions of the geothermal effect. We're not running this massive geothermal system in here. What I mean by that is we're just capturing the heat of the earth in our greenhouse and keeping it in here. We've got it radiating from the ground and from these 3 walls. So in the wintertime, that will help really keep the temperatures up, even on cold nights, and really reduce the amount of insulation needed and the cooling effect. We can artificially heat the greenhouse in here with a small little wood burning stove, propane heaters, solar heaters, any of those things. But there's always going to be an insulation loss. So you have your greenhouse above the ground, you're losing heat out of every wall and the roof at night. It's just escaping. I don't care if you're making more in, it's eventually escaping that and going to heat the great outdoors. So in this case, all of ours, 3 of our sides here are earthen berm that were dug out. So it's not just a berm of earth, but the whole earth is right there and it's 8 feet deep. So we're not getting an insulation loss unless the temperature we have in here is greater than 55 degrees, then it will penetrate that. So the secret is to keep, there's some people that do a wood panel in here because it looks nice. There's some people that do stone, and there's not a wrong way, but for us, we're choosing to leave the earth part exposed. Now we're going to put some beams in and some things like that to help reinforce the dirt so it doesn't go, and we'll do some vertical risers and then maybe a little bit of mesh work. For those of you in the military, if you're familiar with HESCOs, picture a HESCO system design right here against that wall. And then the framework that will hold in the ceiling is actually going to be built up here on top of the hill all the way around us. So the ceiling is kind of like a cap that will sit down over this hole. And it will have one sloping direction for the most part with a little bit of an awning on the front over here. And that will force our water runoff into a spot where we can then capture all that water runoff too and bring it down in here, just to make it a little bit more efficient. Again, out here we're blessed with a huge spring that puts out about 600 gallons per minute. So we don't really need the water, but why move it? Why not capture what it is we're getting and use that again to help in here in the greenhouse? So right now I've walked out to what would be the front entrance of the greenhouse. So again, I said in here we're building a huge wooden frame. We're boxing the whole thing out. And then we're putting a cap on top of the whole thing That, and the cap again sits out here on the earth part, not on our frame. Our frame is just to help hold up the walls. Well, this front frame will be different. This front frame will be going all the way up to the roof and providing the resting edge for this top of the roof. What that will allow us to do is have this side, which is our south-facing wall, be glass or plexiglass. But this gives us a solar capture effect for heat and for UV on the south wall, which is, as you know, is our greatest exposure wall, especially in the winter time, hemisphere-wise, and then we'll have the whole roof. So we're still gonna have a massive amount of solar radiance captured in the greenhouse, and we're also gonna use a bit of the heat all the way around by capturing at least 3 sides to be solid earth. So that's the design for our Chinese greenhouse. That's the term, you know, that we used for it. A true subterranean greenhouse would be dug out on all 4 sides, and you might walk down some stairs to get to it. And that's utilizing the dome or the roof for capturing solar radiance and bringing it in to grow plants. For us, we wanted to be able to have that roof plus the south-facing wall. We want to make sure we're getting a whole lot of that sunlight coming in here and maximize our growing capability in here. And as we get that done, there'll be more videos showing you obviously how we'll be doing the framing. Sometimes it's hard to picture it. You know, we can show you, maybe we'll add in some drawings of what it'll look like and things, but not on this video, but maybe on our next one where we're beginning the construction and we show you some of the design drawings that way that we have. Of course, you're watching this on the internet. We know the internet is filled with design plans for how it's going to work. So again, to give you an idea, behind me, I am walking toward our regular row crop garden here, and I will stand up on the berm from the hole that we dug out and kind of give you a better picture. So here I am standing on the top of this wall for our 20 by 40 dugout. Again, it's dug out all along what would be the natural slope here, but then all the dirt that was in here all got moved down here and kind of gave us this flat front place to go for that. We're looking really forward to getting this done. My goal is to actually have it done in the next couple of weeks. So I think you're going to see a few videos on this over the next week about our construction techniques. This is, again, just part 1. And you'll see how we're going to incorporate it. And again, it's not a way, it's just a way. It's not the way to do it. There are 1,000,001 people, and I'm sure, just like everything else we've done here on the homestead, we are going to learn some lessons in the process. So part 1, the introduction, you saw the hole and you got introduced to the design for it. In part 2, you'll see the construction of it, and part 3 will probably be the finishing of it. And probably by this time next year, I'll be filming part 4, which will be the what I wish I did differently part of it. But until then, thank you for supporting us and for watching us, and hopefully we can all learn and grow together and share in our homesteading experiences together. Thank you for all the people who are publishing this kind of stuff on YouTube. This content has allowed us to make a lot of first-time goes and reduce our error rates just coming into this in the last couple of years. Hopefully we're just passing that culture on. So again, thank you for watching us and for helping us out with our homestead. If you've got comments about it, please leave them in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our videos, turn on the bell notification, all those things. That'll help more people find our content. Again, thank you very much, and until next time, keep growing.